And welcome back to Eyewitness Newsmakers from your local election headquarters. Andy Mahalchik along with producer Jane Ann Bugda. Our guest in this segment is Republican incumbent Congressman Dan Meuser, who is running for re-election in the 9th Congressional District. And Mr. Congressman, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be with you, Jane Ann and Andy.
Let me start off first question. First of all, tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself and why you decided to run for re-election.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Well, I spent the last 30 years married to my wife, Shelley, living in Luzerne County. I worked with a local manufacturer, Pride Mobility Products, helped grow a small company into a large company over a lot of years, raised my family, 2 daughters and my son. I became revenue secretary in the Tom Corbett administration. That was quite a role, quite a job. I was able to bring business acumen to a state agency, and we really worked hard for taxpayers. We did everything we could to change a collection agency into a taxpayer advocacy organization, and we were actually quite successful. So I think we proved that you can really improve a state agency in favor of the people. I ran in 2018. Politics has certainly always been something I've been interested in, really since my early days. And I'm very pleased to be here. It's an absolute honor to serve the people of the 9th. I'm running again because I feel, first of all, I have the experiences necessary to be an effective member of Congress. It's an honor to represent the people of the 9th and, frankly, to help make our country great. I appreciate being the people's voice in Congress. I appreciate the fact of working with the president and Republicans and Democrats to get things done and to problem solve with my team for our constituents throughout all of my 8 counties that make up the 9th Congressional.
And Congressman, why we're here today is to get your views on a number of issues that are important to this campaign. And of course, we're doing this interview via Zoom because of COVID-19. So our first question is, how do you think the COVID-19 pandemic is being handled?
Well, look, this was unprecedented. It was a very serious crisis, one that there was very little information on how to do things in the most perfect manner possible. This thing came at us out of China. I do think the president reacted very decisively in shutting down the air travel from China. The president virtually immediately started bringing in businesses and other stakeholders to figure out scientists. You know, we saw Dr. Fauci and Dr. Redmond and Dr. Birx, who I met with several times in Washington, were with the president regularly. He put the Vice President Pence in charge of the task force. And, you know, it was interesting. I was receiving very close to, if not the same information that the task force was receiving, as did the president. And, you know, the president gets some criticism, but if you look back, his message and his plan was right in line with what Dr. Fauci and others were saying from the very beginning and receiving the same information. And when I say the very beginning, as of mid to late February. And I think the president's actions were decisive. It was inclusionary. He had a calming element, but he was very aggressive. And, you know, of course, there's criticism. Hey, he's the president. But if you look around at comments made by Joe Biden, for instance, when he said it was racist of the president to shut down travel from China, or Speaker Pelosi telling people, hey, there's no risk in coming to Chinatown in San Francisco. And this was in early March. And Andrew Cuomo saying there's no risk in coming to New York. There were a lot of mistakes made, or our governor in Pennsylvania allowing people with COVID to go back to nursing homes and to pick and choose who was being shut down. Unfortunately, there were a lot of mistakes made. What's important is that we learn and we move forward. We in Congress, we did pass the CARES Act, which was very, very helpful to hospitals, to families, to businesses with the PPP, to families with the stimulus checks, the unemployment compensation. We helped college students by extending out their college loan payments. So it was comprehensive, it was bipartisan, and we got it done. And now we need to continue to do that. Unfortunately, I'm in Washington right now, and there's a tremendous amount of partisanship taking place, and this thing is becoming political again. We can all agree that we need to focus on a recovery for our economy and our schools. We should all be able to agree that law and order must exist, and we should all be able to agree that we need to find a virus and other therapeutics sooner rather than later. That is what we should be able to agree upon. And unfortunately, again, I think the Democrat leadership has done everything possible to stand in the way of progress in order to win an election.
Okay, Congressman, you mentioned the economy. The economy, by most accounts, before COVID was doing pretty well. How do we get back on track, and where do you think we're headed? How would you do that?
Well, health and safety have to come first, but we have to lean in. We need the economy to open. We have to allow small businesses, as is happening, to bring back their employees, and that's very much what our initiative was about. But that needs to be the focus. I mean, the best revenue generator is a job, and Congress needs to support that effort with a continuation of the paycheck protection plans, with perhaps some stimulus dollars. There's a lot of things that we can do to sustain consumer spending, to sustain consumer confidence at a reasonable level, and assure that that we grow through this and we don't shut down and we don't run into any further recession or something worse, a depression.
And Congressman, we're just changing gears a little bit. We've had a lot of violence across our country, and many people are calling for the funding of police departments. What's your opinion?
Well, that's pretty much the worst idea. That's completely contrary to exactly what should be done. Look, we had a real problem, right, with some folks in our city communities, and what we must do is appreciate that people in those communities need to feel that they're being protected. They need to actually believe in the police. So we need better communication. We need some reforms. The vast majority of our police officers are great people. My father was a police officer, and we all should know that. But we tried to pass, the Republicans, something called the Justice Act, which included some really important aspects. It included accountability. It included transparency. It allowed for various reforms that we all should have been able to embrace, but instead, Speaker Pelosi and others did not agree, and eventually we got nothing done. But what's important is that the law and order in the streets needs to be at a level of zero tolerance. Like, we all have to be understanding to, all right, we want some police reforms, let's do it. But the moment we don't back our men and women in blue, those people who put their lives on their lines all the time to protect and serve, that's when chaos strikes. And the leadership from far too many elected officials, and again, I'll go back to Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris, them not providing that support and being silent, and in fact, somewhat tacitly compliant with the lawlessness in the streets, made the matters worse. Didn't make things better. The appeasement made it worse. And we all need to be united in stating very clearly that we will not stand for, as a nation and as a people, lawlessness in our streets.
Okay, Congressman, we're wrapping up. We'll have to wrap it up now. You have a minute? Tell the folks home why they should put Dan Meuser back in Washington.
Well, folks, it's been an absolute honor to serve. Again, I came into this eyes wide open. I've got the business experience. I've got my public sector experience, where we were very successful. We actually turned the Department of Revenue in Pennsylvania into the most improved Department of Revenue in the country, applying principles and a lot of hard work and surrounding myself with a great team. We're on the right side of things to make our country great again, to borrow a phrase, to work with the president, to work with our leadership on the big issues that will truly advance our country. And I've done a lot of legislation that's very important to Pennsylvania. We have a saying in my office called ATP, All Things Pennsylvania. And we, from revitalization efforts to coal cleanup efforts to an opioid bill that we may be voting on tomorrow, I hope. So we're doing a lot. Our constituent services are good. We're working real hard. And I certainly ask you for your continued support, your vote, your friendship, and really your partnership to do this job in the level that we need to. It's an inclusionary effort, and we're all in. We're all in. I think the people in Pennsylvania's 9th, and hopefully a good portion of Pennsylvania, see that we're very dedicated to service.
Okay, Representative Dan Meuser, Republican incumbent in the 9th District of Pennsylvania, thank you for joining us today. And we tell folks we have your information also linked up to pahomepage.com. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you very much.
And you're watching Newsmakers from your local election headquarters, and we'll be back right after this.